Welcome back, everybody. We are live, eSIM Studios. How is everybody doing on this Friday afternoon? It is July 24th, 2026. Let me test my audio here and see how it sounds for everybody. Let's see. Let's see, shall? Yeah, we're good. We are good. All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Let me share this out. We are running on a massive delay today. But I appreciate everybody for joining me here. Let me get my other monitor up and running and we'll get started. We got a lot of stuff going on here today. We got a lot of stuff here today. All right. So we're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. Let's see. Let me share it real quick. Hang in there. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss this one. Because we have some troubling news. Dun, dun, dun. Troubling news. Interesting news. We're going to get all to it. Now, this is not going to be a long show. It's going to be a quick one. But, let's see here. Let me share. Lord have mercy. I got so many computers going on here. I don't know which one to connect to. Okay. Let me open this. Let me go here. Let me go here. Are you doing okay? How was your Friday today? Sharing that live. All right. Almost there. I can promise you that. All right. Get everybody settled in. Now let me share it to let's see. Okay. Social media is good. And we share it one more place. And we are good to go. Okay. So, I would like to welcome everybody to the eSIM Studios live stream. We have a lot to talk about in very short amount of time. So, let's see here. We have nothing news. We have Samsung news. Did anybody pre-order any of the Samsung foldables? Did anybody pre-order any Samsung foldables? And were you disappointed in regards to anything that was announced, that was launched on this week's Samsung Unpacked event? Was there something you were hoping? Like, I don't think, well, I know for sure we didn't get tablets. Probably be at a later date. They probably won't, well, I know they won't have a launch event for the tablets. They'll just say, hey, they're for sale. Put out a press release and you'll be able to buy them. So we still have tablets. There's no classic Galaxy Watch this year. It's just the Watch and the Ultra, which I kind of figured. I'm sure the sales for the classic model were probably not all that great. But we have Pixel news, we have nothing news, and S27 news. And let me pull that up here. So we got nothing. Let's see. So, what we're going to do is we are going to start with nothing. Dun, dun, dun. First OnePlus, and now nothing. What the hell is going on? It's almost like there's a crisis going on in the tech world. Newsflash, there is. Hello. So I don't need to break down, what's going on with OnePlus. And look, this is not just a tech-only concern when it comes to businesses or, it's not industry specific. It's prices are going up across the board. Have you seen gas prices lately? It's insane. I just saw the gas prices for California last night and my head almost exploded. Damn near $6 a gallon. $6 a gallon. So it just, again, paper towels, freaking water, all sorts of stuff, right? Phone mounts, cases. How could I forget cases for phones? Just extraordinary freaking inflation prices, right? Now, when it comes down to phones, let's get back to the tech sector. When it comes down to phones, it hits every aspect of your operation, right? Your suppliers, the parts for actually putting the parts in these phones, the parts get more expensive. Labor, a little more expensive, right? Shipping these devices to wherever you're going to sell them, more expensive. And that, again, gas always has something to do with it because it always encompasses your operation. All this stuff comes into play when you sell a product, specifically a phone, because you have so many aspects. You have so many different areas that have to get it just right, and you have to calculate just right, to make a product, to expect a return on your product or profit. Well, OnePlus, we all know, it's hard to live in this little niche in the tech world, specifically with phones. It's dominated. Everybody knows this. It's dominated by two manufacturers, Apple and Samsung. And everybody else kind of trickles in, right? So it's hard to take a real bite out of that pie chart. OnePlus, essentially, they're not going to be extinct completely, but let's face it, if they're only going to put out a couple models next year and they're only going to be operating and selling in China, it's essentially been consolidated as much as possible without just folding completely, right? Dissolving. Now, I've mentioned over the last couple of months, just talking about OnePlus and their semi-dissolve, of just how brilliant Carl Pei and nothing have been over the last few years that they've been existing, but specifically over the last 12 to 18 months, of what a great feat that is, just to keep your head above the water, right? Just to stay alive. It's hard. It's not easy. It's very, very, very hard. And I gave them props numerous times of just keeping that company afloat, right? Well, now we have news that nothing might be next. Now, I don't get, excitement out of it. It's actually pretty a sad thing that it looks like nothing might be next. Now, don't Don't freak out. They're not going to close shop tomorrow. But this is the exact same play. This is the exact same kind of news you would see with OnePlus, right? Because we heard, when did that article come out with Android headlines that we heard OnePlus might be folding? That was maybe 6 to 8 months ago. Well, every month or 2 months, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, every month or 2 months, you'd hear another story. And it was just nothing but bad news, more bad news, more bad news. Oh, they're closing shop in the US. They're closing shop in Europe. They've all these different markets, they're laying off employees here, laying off employees there. It was not good news, right? Every story you heard, whenever their name was in the news, OnePlus, it was bad news, bad news, bad news. Well, this is the first sign that nothing might be having struggles. Because, let me share my screen. There's a new article here that 9 to 5 Google put out. Now, the original report, let me pull that up. Let me share my screen. So, the original report here, this is who originally reported this. Check this out. Nothing is going to exit 12 markets as global shipments decline despite India growth. So I put out a video. Was it a short or video? I can't remember. I put out a video, I think about a week ago, pinpointing, focusing in on nothing's India growth. The only two smartphone manufacturers that actually grew, meaning that increased their market share in the India market specifically, was the Google with the Pixel and nothing with the whatever devices they sell in India. That's it. Not Apple, not Samsung. It was Google and nothing. And I remember saying in that video, wow, this is surprising. It's exciting if you're a nothing fan, and it's good news. I think everybody can admit that's a kind of a sigh of relief, and whew, that's good news, right? Well, guess what? That's the only market that they have that nothing specifically has had positive growth. Now, it was a lot of growth. It was 105% growth year over year in the India market. All other countries in the world sucked. And now you see this. So, article states nothing is shutting down in 12 or more global markets, including the Middle East, Japan, and the majority of Europe. That's not good news. So what does shutting down in 12 or more global markets mean? What does that mean? Well, it essentially means if you had any marketing there, any offices there, they're closing them down, meaning any retail locations, they'd shut them down. If they rented office space kind of like as a hub or a base in Japan, right? Maybe they rented space out of a high rise in Tokyo. Well, that's going to be closed. Maybe they had to employ 12 people in that Tokyo office to make sure shipments go through, to make sure, you have connections with suppliers, with marketing, and all 12 of those employees worked out of that specific office to kind of keep the company running in that general region of the world. Boom, all that's getting closed. So they're closing offices, they're laying off employees in 12 markets around the world. And again, this is what we heard. It's the exact same play we heard with OnePlus. Nothing is going to reduce its global headcount by 30 to 40%. That is an enormous number. That means out of every 10 employees, they're firing 4 of them. 40%. That's a lot. That's a lot. Now, the more surprising thing that I think I necessarily wasn't shocked by, but look at just how many few Nothing Phone 4B devices sold. They just sold 20,000 units. 20,000 units. That's like literally nothing. Like, I saw this number today and I was like, 20,000? That's it? I mean, that's as big of a flop as I've seen in a long time. That's laughable. Now, what else does that mean? It's not only laughable and not good news, but it's even worse news because that means that all that money that Nothing invested in the Phone 4B essentially went down the drain. Because how much did that phone cost? Let's just say, what was it? Was it $350? So in total profit for those 20,000 units, watch, $350 times 20,000 equals $7 million. Now, that's you have to, now business wise, you have to think, was that right? So $350, I believe it's $350 times 20,000 units. So that means all of the sales of the Phone 4B brought in $7 million. Now, out of that $7 million, you got to pay for manufacturing. You have to pay for putting it together. You have to pay for employees. You got to pay for marketing. You got to pay for overhead. I guarantee you they took an enormous loss on this device. Because remember, Carl Pei has stated in previous videos, they make about 40%, 40 to 50% of whatever the profit is, they get to keep. So if they sold if they got $7 million for all of the 20,000 units that were sold, that essentially means they get to keep 3 to 3.5 million of that profit from those Phone 4B sales. I don't want to bore you with numbers, but let's just say that's not a good number. I'm sure they were hoping to sell at least, now, wait, how long has it been out? Probably a month or two? It's a pretty low count. I think they were expecting and or hoping to at least hit 100,000 units. At least 100,000. And that's not... Look, in the phone world, if you're selling a phone, and I know it's not for sale in the United States, and to be honest, how many more sales will they get from the United States? That's why these companies, and as much as I hate it, as much as I hate these companies pulling out of the United States, because it sucks for us, right, here in the US, because it just eliminates our options, I guarantee you, they said it is not worth it. How many more would they have sold, realistically? If they only sold 20,000 units, how many more are we talking if they included the US? 5,000 more? 10,000 more? Really not that much. And you can see why they're kind of staying out of the US market, because they're going to take a lot less profit per device if selling it in the US because of all these stupid tariffs that keep on being implemented. So, look, this is not good. Now, Nothing, I believe, has responded to this report. Hang on. It says the Phone 4B has shipped approximately 20,000 units globally since the launch. And here's another shocking number. In total, the Phone 4A and Phone 4A Pro have only sold 150,000 units worldwide. That's for two devices worldwide, only 150,000 units. That's not good either. So you can see by these numbers, business is not going as well as expected or as hoped, right? By me. I want to see them succeed. I know a lot of viewers also as well. Android lovers, you need, even if you don't like nothing, even if you would never buy one of their phones, it's imperative that they survive, and not only survive, but we really need them to thrive. You need that good quality budget option available. You need that good quality mid-range phone available to US buyers and to the rest of the world, quite frankly. It's imperative. They're not your typical average brand. I think we all know that now. But they put pressure, it helps put pressure on Samsung. It helps put pressure, maybe a little pressure, but a little bit is better than none, on Apple, right? Like, it's important for the tech world to have a company like nothing. So I really hope they can pull through this. But when you start looking at the numbers, kind of like that OnePlus report. Remember that initial report came out and OnePlus said, oh, no. It's fake news. It's not real. We're operating as normal. And that's exactly what Nothing co-founder said today. It's fake news. It's not real. We're operating as normal. Well, of course they're going to say that, right? Like, what do you want them to say? Oh, yeah, business is not good. Looks like we're going to shut down. No, they're not going to say that. They're trying to sell phones, right? Best Buy still has a boatload of phones they're trying to sell and on their website. And not just here, but in South Africa and Australia, New Zealand. They're trying to sell phones. So, of course, they're not going to say that. But history repeats itself. And as much as I don't want to say this, it looks like Nothing is headed on the same track that OnePlus just recently went down. And if Nothing goes down, you thought the US buyers' options were limited. Well, look, I was kind of disappointed this year with the 4A Pro. That's why I sent it back. I mean, I think all y'all know already. I didn't have the best experience with mine. Now, can Nothing do better? I mean, I guess so. I have no idea. I'm not in their offices. I'm not in their meetings. But as much, I think they have a good product. I just think they have to make a couple of tweaks. And if anybody's watching outside of the US, or if anybody's watching that has never used a Nothing phone, most people know my big gripe is that it only works with one carrier here. Like what are we doing? Like, little things like that, just, I cannot comprehend. Why are you going to officially sell a phone in the United States and it essentially only works with T-Mobile? Hello? Like, little things like that, sometimes I gotta, like, what are they doing? I think they can make a couple of tweaks, but that's still not going to, maybe it did affect sales here, but remember, we're talking globally. I don't know what it's like in Europe. I don't know what it's like in Japan. Maybe only one carrier works there too. Hell, I have no clue. But not good. Not good. Only 20,000 units of the 4B and only 150,000 units of the 4A and 4A Pro. So, yeah, not good. I don't know where we go from here. It says, in addition, global headcount is being reduced by 40%, and the company's R&D unit, which is split 70-30 between China and London, is facing layoffs around 50%. Wow, so they're doing major cuts. Now, what does that mean? That means they simply cannot afford to pay their employees, so they're saying, hey, we're having to lay people off. Will Nothing survive this? I have no clue, but it does not look good because it doesn't look like we're getting over this memory crisis for a long time. Remember, experts say we're supposed to be in this memory crisis mode for well into the 2030s, and we're in 2026, right? So you're talking at least 4 years to get to the 2020. Excuse me. So we're talking about 4 years getting to the 2030s. And then what do they mean past 2030s? We talking 2032, 2033, dare I say 2034, 8 years? Checking out. I honestly don't believe nothing can survive this if the memory price crisis goes on 8 years. I'm not gonna lie, it made me wonder, it made me think today, is this why they did not produce a Nothing Phone 4? Because they got the flagship 3, that flopped. And remember when that came out, I said they can't afford too many flops. Like, if they want to thrive in this tech world, they're going to have to hit release after release after release. What does that mean? That means sell, baby, sell. They're going to have to sell devices. They flopped on the 3. And I said they can't afford too many of these, right? You have one flop every once in a while, but you're going to at least, at the very least, hit minimum expectations just to stay alive. And apparently, on their last 3 releases, they have not. So the 3 flopped. It looks like the 4A and 4A Pro flopped because that's not many units. And it looks like the 4B flopped big time. So that's 3 phone releases that flopped. Now, they might do what Oppo is doing, or it looks like they're going to do. Some of these bigger Chinese manufacturers might just not sell the ultra variants of their phones because prices are just so crazy. I wonder if they're having real discussions inside these Nothing offices, asking themselves, and look, when you're in crisis mode, everything's on the table. So I guarantee you they've had this discussion. Should we not sell phones for the next few years and just focus on audio? Audio devices, although it's not easy by any means, it's much more manageable when you sell a $100 product than a $800 product or a $600 product. And they're known for having good audio products, right? So I wonder if they're having these discussions. Should we take a pause on these phones and just sell audio? Because at this point, I'm not sure. It looks like they've been treading water with their head barely above the water since probably for the last... Well, when was the phone 3 released? Maybe 8 months. I think they've been cutting it close for 8, 10, maybe 12 months. Not good at all. It says CMF, Nothing brands sub-brand unit built around devices priced under 30,000 rupees. That says has no new smartphone plan for 2026. Yikes. Nothing co-founder Akis Evangelitis confirmed this publicly by saying, "We are working on a successor, but with memory prices where they're at now, we can't build a phone that feels like a genuine step forward at a price that makes sense for CMF." So these memory prices just essentially validated what I just said. And I promise I didn't read this article before I pulled it up. I only read the 9 to 5 article. But he's saying it right there. With the memory prices the way they are, we just simply cannot manufacture a phone at this point in time. So CMF's going to take a break. And the way things are going for Nothing, it looks like they're going to take a break. So I don't have numbers on their audio products, because here's the thing, they might be able to still survive just selling audio products, but if their audio products are not selling, it's going to be the end for Nothing, a short-lived company, right? And again, they could take a break, but you still have employees to pay, you still have bills you got to pay. So I really don't know how they're going to maneuver this. Not good. Not good at all, man. Let's see. How's everybody doing? I've heard the new Pixel phones are going to make RAM more efficient despite degrading the RAM capacity, if I'm correct. Yes, you are correct. I did see that headline today. I did not read the article, but I can give you a breakdown without even reading it. Yeah, they're going to do that for one thing to make their phones more efficient because they're reducing RAM on a lot of their flagships. So of course they want their phones to run nicely, but that's good for Samsung people, Samsung users, because all Samsung flagships have 12 gigs of RAM. And yeah, they can, right? They can tweak the operating system, the core code of Android, and they can tweak it even before it gets to the build, gets to Samsung, even before the build gets to Xiaomi or nothing. They certainly can. So I think everybody would welcome that. I don't see why anybody would have a grudge with that way of thinking or that tweaking of the Android operating system. Yeah, so Google today officially confirmed prices are going to be more expensive on the Pixel devices, unfortunately, and it's going to suck. So they've officially confirmed, I believe there's a price hike of $100. Now, I don't know. So when Google came out and made a statement saying that, yeah, our prices are going to get higher and we're going to tweak Android to make it run more efficient and use less RAM in future builds of Android. I don't know when they're going to start implementing that fix or that tweak. Not like it was bad in the first place, but of course, if you reduce the amount of RAM in a given device, yeah, you're going to need to run it more efficiently and use less RAM to make the phone, seem smoother. I never really had an issue with RAM management in the past, although every now and then I'll go in and into the developer options and I'll go and check and see my RAM management. I can't feel it on the phone, meaning like my usage of my Android devices are actually pretty good, really smooth, super fast, fluid, smooth, all that good stuff. But when I go in and check the RAM management, just how much my devices are using, it's up there. It's up there towards the max. So I see what they're saying. And look, as time goes on, as apps get bigger, code gets more complex, robust, more data. Yeah, you're going to need. So maybe they had this on the roadmap. I'm talking about Google with their Android developers department, the core Android. Maybe they had already planned on their internal roadmap for different Android versions. Maybe they had addressing RAM management, on the roadmap in 2027. But now they're like, well, shoot, we need to rev that up, get that going ASAP because our latest phones are going to get more expensive and we're going to put less RAM in them. So we need to tweak Android like right now. But I don't know when they're going to implement that. And I don't think it's that hard. I think it can be implemented. You know what? They're probably going to implement it by next month, to be honest with you. By the time these new devices hit the shelves, I think you're going to see a day one update for those devices specifically for the new Pixel 11, Pixel 11 Pro, Pixel 11 Pro XL, and Pixel 11 Pro Fold. I guarantee you they're going to push a RAM management tweak to those devices on day one, right out the box. Now, I think they'll ship that new RAM management code in probably September's monthly security patch because Google issues those to Samsung, to Xiaomi, to Nothing. And then the Samsung, the Xiaomi, the Nothing developers, implement their code, their skin into that base build of Android and then push it out to their phone. So I think we're going to see this pretty quick. Now that I think about it, we should see a smoother, more efficient RAM management. I just hope they don't just close out apps in the background left and right, and it may take a month or two, maybe 3 to kind of get feedback from users and tweak it just a little more just to, every once in a while over the next few months that they do implement this just to make sure devices are running smoothly. So I think we're going to see this pretty quick. And that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. And you can check your RAM management. Just go to your developer options settings and you'll see it there. All right, you became a member. Thank you so much. We're going to do a members only live stream tomorrow. If you want to talk technology with me, You can be my guest. You don't have to show your face. You can get behind an avatar and just talk on a blank screen. But if you want to talk technology with me, you want to discuss stuff, you have any questions, maybe you can't decide where to get a Z Fold 8, right? There's a lot of options out there. Hit the panel with me and others on our members only live stream. This will be on YouTube only, but become a member. We'll discuss technology. We will help you. We'll break down your options, and we'll have a group think, and try to hypothesize maybe the best place to get a new Z Fold 8. So would love to see you there. If you're watching this on TikTok, jump over to YouTube and search eSam Studios. We will pop up. Join, and we're going to do these members only live discussions here, I think on a weekly basis. So hope to see everybody over there tomorrow. What's going on, brother? I know nothing is technically sold to U.S. consumers, but it's not fully compatible on all major carriers like Verizon or AT&T. I had to trick the network just to get AT&T. No. That was on the Nothing phone. I had to trick the phone. No, I had to trick the network with the phone I was using, but that was on the phone 3A. It wouldn't even accept a SIM card in the Nothing phone 4A Pro. Just total reject. And AT&T did not accept the phone when I called them. They said they do not support. They literally told me verbatim, they do not support that Nothing phone 4A Pro. Really, Nothing? Really? So, yeah, it's a head scratcher. I don't understand how you're selling a device at Best Buy officially and on your website to U.S. consumers, but only one carrier works. Like, imagine how many people have a bad experience, right? Maybe somebody says, oh, cool, that's a badass phone. I've heard about Nothing phones, but never used one, or, haven't really had the urge to buy one, but now I'm going to try it, right? And they go out and they go to Best Buy, they look at it, yeah, this is cool, let me buy it. And then they throw their Cricket or their AT&T SIM in there. Boom, nothing. No pun intended. Like what a horrible, look, could be worse, right? But I'm just saying, a bad consumer experience. And those aren't cheap. It's a mid-range phone. The 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gig model was $668. That is not cheap, right? You can get a Motorola Signature that blows it away on the spec sheet for the same price. So it's like, these are not necessarily that cheap. These are expensive, and that person that gave Nothing a try is going to return it, and they're never going to use and buy a Nothing phone again, because they're going to be like, oh, really? This is what they're all about? Like, yeah, it looks cool, but what's a cool phone if you can't use it? It's just, I don't understand what's going on over there. It's like they didn't even test the market out first. Yeah, I don't get it. They're desperately trying to spin it, but it seems like a mix of word salad, corporate spin. It does. And remember, this is exactly what OnePlus just went through. And look, they've officially announced last week that they're closing. So, of course, they're going to say, oh, everything's fine. Oh, we're just restructuring. Everything, don't look over here. Everything's A-okay on the Nothing side. While behind the scenes, they're probably sweating bullets, right? I bet Carl Pei can't sleep at night, and it sucks. I'm not obviously celebrating this. It sucks. It sucks for them, and it sucks for us. Again, they just had a couple of things that they needed to tweak. They, just needed to make, and that's on the consumer side. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but for consumers, need to make a couple of tweaks, and it would be a really good phone to use. But that's why I returned mine. I had network issues, and see ya. Here comes the Signature. Literally the same price, and this thing blows it away. So I'm like, but that's their loss, right? If they're not going to acknowledge these things and obviously not testing the market before you sell them there, they're missing something. They need to hire somebody like me that can get them on the right track here in America. Okay. Yeah, it's a. Plus, they would probably get less profit per unit in the U.S. since it's very expensive to get carrier certification, and carriers aren't friendly to these smaller companies anyways. They're not. And, that's why you see a lot of these companies just back out of the U.S. market, right? That's why, as much as it sucks, I do not blame Oppo from OnePlus. Yeah, it sucks because they were here, they were operating, but think about it. You think Apple and you think Samsung wants OnePlus in the U.S. market? Hell no. They want all other competitors out, and they're going to lobby behind the scenes, do whatever it takes to make sure nothing gets kicked out of the U.S. market, to make sure U.S. Market does not have OnePlus in there. So they're going to make FCC certifications so expensive that essentially only Apple and Samsung can, afford it. They're going to make the tariffs so high on these electronics, but they're going to give Apple and Samsung a break behind the scenes. They don't have to pay as much, but while nothing in OnePlus and Oppo would have to pay an exorbitant amount of money just on tariffs just to sell the phone here. I don't blame them at all, honestly. If I was in charge of Oppo, I'm like, well, we're just going to back out of the U.S. market. It's literally and figuratively not worth it. And it sucks. I wish it wasn't that way. But you can clearly see Samsung and Apple dominate the market, and they're pinching out the competition. And us, the consumer, are the ones that suffer. It's business, but it sucks for the consumer. Even before the stupid tariffs, the U.S. is pretty hostile, if because of just the pervasiveness of the carriers. Yeah, and look, Apple and Samsung put pressure on the carriers to pinch out OnePlus, to pinch out nothing. The carriers do not want you using an unlocked phone. The carriers want a monopoly. The carriers want your business. So that means they want you to purchase a phone on a financing plan. They want to lock you in, and they either want you using an Apple or a Samsung. Right? Now, Motorola is another interesting piece of the pie that we haven't heard anything about Motorola, and I'm glad. As much as I only like one or two phones that they have, it's very important that they stick around. It's very important that they stay relevant on some level, right? Your very first thought is definitely not Motorola. When you think of, man, a badass phone I want to get. No, in fact, it wasn't even that way just 6 months ago until the Signature was released, and then a couple months ago when the Razr Fold was released. Now they got a hit on their hands. Now they just got to make a couple of other tweaks, like I'm saying a lot of these companies do. Just a couple more things that I think is really feasible. I think it's not asking too much to update your lineup. Is it monthly? Is that too much to ask Motorola? Because I would buy another Motorola phone if you just updated your phones monthly. Like, come on now. Like, it seems like some of these companies are missing common sense. I truly, truly do not understand it. But back to your point, yes. Trust me, it's all like a little monopoly. Like, they're all in it together, The administration, wink, wink, is getting kickbacks. Apple and Samsung are getting kickbacks. The carriers are getting kickbacks. They're all in it together to pinch out the other competitors. And even if they do that, yes, Apple and Samsung are butting heads as far as market share. But as long as they can kick out nothing in OnePlus and keep Oppo and Xiaomi out of the U.S. market, it means more business for them. And then they can focus on battling each other more, because the absence of nothing, the absence of OnePlus, the absence of Oppo and Xiaomi means more market share for them, because the users of those other phone manufacturers are going to have to buy a new phone at some point, and they want it to be an Apple iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy. and they want you to use, preferably buy it from them, or if you get it from AT&T, hey, no biggie, at least you got one of our devices, because I know you're going to be locked in for a few years, and you're more likely to buy a tablet, you're more likely to buy a watch, you're more likely to buy their services. So it's this big, just churning of business and cutting out the competition, signing up services. It's just this big, nasty. It really bothers me, but there's nothing we can do. It's just like watching a car crash in slow motion. It's like, you know what's going to happen. There's nothing you can do. You know, it just sucks because I don't want to be limited. Newsflash, Apple. Newsflash, Samsung. I don't want to be limited to one or two phones. And okay, I left out Google. Hey, what about the Pixel? What about the Pixel? Okay. But I'm going to be restraining myself from purchasing a Pixel because after 200 charging cycles, you cut the charging speeds in half. So it's not even worth using for 6 months, essentially. So me personally, and I know a lot of other people have no problem, and I'm sure it'll be a great phone for the first 200 charging cycles. But I don't want to be limited. Okay, I'll add one more phone. I don't want to be limited to 3 devices and that's it. Like that sucks, you know. But you can always import phones, and I think there's going to be more people doing that this year because it does suck when you buy a phone from a carrier and you're locked in, right? And it does suck when there's not a lot of competition. And now you're seeing Samsung copy Apple. Let's face it, Apple does copy Samsung, but it's like, oh, wow. I have a choice between the new Galaxy Z Fold8 and the iPhone Ultra. They're 2 passport-style foldable phones. And that's it. Whoop-de-freaking-do. You know, we need more competition. We need more phone manufacturers in the United States market, sells in the U.S. market. Certification doesn't matter if the phone has the band. Oppo works on Verizon, just doesn't get UW, which in my experience has not been an issue. Good point. We just have to remember that tariffs are passed to the consumers. Very true. Very true. Well, I've been on for 45 minutes. Let's see here. I didn't get to the Samsung news. Well, let's hit this real quick. So I know the foldables were just launched, but maybe you're like me. Maybe you're still trying to decide, should I get one? Should I not get one? And you're kind of on the fence, right? Well, here's some news that you might want to know just in case you're still kind of holding out for another option or two, right? Which does seem like it's pretty limited at this point. But you can know that it looks like we have confirmation that the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S27 series are going to get confirmed new camera hardware, and it looks like some are going to get silicon carbon batteries. Now, let me just lay this out there. The base model and the plus model are not getting anything. The base model and the plus model are on the low end of the totem pole that Samsung's kind of just, get out of here. They're going to focus on the new Pro model and the Ultra model. Those are going to get all new camera hardware. It's going to get all new silicon carbon batteries. The base and the plus model are going to get the same old 7-year sensors and same old lithium ion batteries. Now, we do know this because we've got confirmation of part suppliers and sensors that they are supplying to Samsung. So here's a report from the Galaxy Club that adds Samsung is set to revamp the camera setup here with the main updates being new sensors. Check this out. Y'all ready? For We have all new camera hardware for the S27 series. And what are you getting? Well, you're getting in the S27. Here's the base model. We're going to get to the Pro and the Ultra. So I take that back. The S27 is the base model. It looks like they are getting upgraded cameras, the actual sensors, but they're not brand new sensors. So instead of having 7-year-old sensors, they're going to get like 2-year-old sensors. So the S27 is getting a 50 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide telephoto to be determined. The S27 Plus, that same 50 megapixel main sensor, 12 megapixel ultra wide telephoto to be determined. And here's where the real upgrade begins at the S27 Pro. Now remember, the S27 Pro is a new model Samsung's going to introduce. We initially thought it was going to be the S26, or we all anticipated the Pro model being just like the Ultra model, minus an S Pen. Well, it's really not the case. There is going to be 1 or 2 spec difference. So it's not going to be exactly like it. And we now know the Pro model is going to be smaller. So the Ultra model is a 6.9 inch big AMOLED display. Well, the Pro model is going to be a 6.5 inch. So it's going to be a little smaller. They're going to kind of continue the trend of copying Apple. And they're going to have a Pro Max model in the Ultra and a Pro model in the Pro. So let's jump into the camera sensors. S27 Pro, the 6.5 inch Pro small Galaxy. Main camera, to be determined. 50 megapixel ultra wide is a new Sony IMX855 sensor. A 50 megapixel 5x telephoto sensor. And a 16 megapixel selfie camera with autofocus. And for the one everybody's been waiting for, the S27 Ultra, the one I will be getting, and the one most people will be getting, the main camera, to be determined, although it's likely that they're putting a all-new 200 megapixel variable aperture sensor in there. The same one that the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max is probably going to have. Yeah, Samsung's making the camera sensors that are going to go in the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max, but this one's going to be a 200 megapixel variable. We know it's going to be a brand new sensor. I'm anticipating it to have variable aperture. We'll have to wait and see on that, but it's going to likely be a brand new 200 megapixel sensor, just like on here, just brand new. 50 megapixel ultra wide Sony IMX855, 50 megapixel 5x telephoto. Second telephoto camera to be determined, and it's getting that same 16 megapixel front-facing selfie camera with autofocus. So that's good news. And we are expecting the Pro and the Ultra to adopt the silicon carbon batteries. I just hope they make them bigger. Again, I'm like, really? Yay, they moved to silicon carbon batteries and they didn't get any bigger. So I'm hoping that since they introduced silicon carbon with these foldables, that instead of having a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in the S27 Ultra, give us at minimum a 6,000 milliamp hour battery in the S27 Ultra. At the minimum, a 6,000 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery. And that's what I'm wanting, hoping for, wishing, and demanding as a consumer. They've shorted us far too long. It's time to hit these upgrades. I want a 10-bit display, damn it. I want UFS 5.0, damn it. I want big silicon carbon batteries, damn it. I want brand new sensors, damn it. Damn you, Samsung. So yeah, well, obviously time will tell. I'll have to wait and see, but I'm going to get out of here. Join me tomorrow. If you're watching this on TikTok, jump over to YouTube, search eSim Studios. We will pop up. I'm going to have a live stream tomorrow. It's going to be open panel. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk some technology with me, you're more than welcome to. It's members only. I think memberships start out like $3 a month. It's pretty affordable, right? More affordable than some other YouTubers have their memberships. But it's open to all levels of membership. So join me tomorrow. eSim Studios members only live stream, and we'll talk a little technology. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the evening. I really appreciate your time. Please take care, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.